Hello everybody, this is a new video for the Brand Psychology channel. My name is Paul Boyden. I'm a psychologist working in the Brand CMHT within the psychology service, and today is a very brief introduction to mindfulness. So this is going to be a really helpful video for those of you who want to refresh on what mindfulness is or maybe haven't come across this before. And all I'm going to do is take you through why is it helpful, some ideas of how to do it, how to introduce it, what it does to help our mental health and other benefits, and then some examples at the end of how you could start practicing this from today. So moving on to the next slide, we can see that it's been estimated by research studies that people have around 60,000 thoughts every single day, which is a lot of thoughts. And that starts from the morning, from when we wake up to think about what to wear, to brush our teeth, to remember to eat, all the way throughout the day. And some studies have shown that we get more than 60,000 thoughts on average, some show that we have less. But what we know is that the mind is very good at generating thoughts that help us to survive and to have imaginative, creative mind, and to think a little bit about what we need to do and how to problem solve. But we also know that sometimes the mind can dwell very much on the past or anticipate the future, and that can sometimes make us very anxious or depressed. So sometimes, if those thoughts are actually a little bit too negative or too overwhelming or too distressing, we of course then do whatever we can, because we're only human, to try and block that out. So you can see from the pictures there, some people will stay in bed all day, some people will eat their feelings, some people will throw themselves into work, some people will throw themselves into other people's lives by gossiping or watching soaps or reading magazines. Some people just have too much distraction, so the TV, eating, radio on in the background, and some people will turn to a bottle of Mind Blanc, so a bottle of wine or some alcohol to try and numb these thoughts or to have a blackout. Other things we might do is just have a very predictable routine so that things become more safe and predictable. And to some extent, that's okay. We kind of all need a routine, that does help. But sometimes what we do, if we get so involved in that routine, we stop to just think and just to be. So we can rush, always be on automatic pilot, always be doing the same thing we want to do. And actually, we really, really struggle to slow down. So why is it important? Well, what we know is that mindfulness, the purpose of doing this is to, for the rest of our lives, get into a point where we can come back to the present moment. And what that does is it helps us to focus on one thing at a time, right here, right now, so that we can soothe our overwhelming emotions that will come and go throughout our lives for all sorts of reasons. But also, it really helps us to separate our judgmental thoughts from our experiences, because judgmental, critical, harsh thoughts, they can actually really fuel overwhelming emotions as well. And what this does is eventually it helps us develop a wise mind. And if you're not too sure what the wise mind is, let me just introduce it from a DBT, Dialectical Behaviour Therapy point of view. So you'll see here we've got two types of minds, two circles. On the left, we've got the reasonable mind, which is where we do lots of thinking, where we can research things, we can think about the past using our memory, we might have logic, we might think about things in a very rational way. And then, of course, we've got our emotional mind, which is where we have lots of feelings, lots of emotions. It could just be that we feel these feelings very much in the body. We might not even put a label on it. We just know that something's coming up and we can't really verbalize it. But what to do to get a wise mind is we need to be able to sort of say, actually, sometimes I might be approaching something from the reasonable or the emotional mind. And what we want to do is see if we can combine the two. So I feel this and I know this. And so from a wise mind perspective, this is my next step. This is what I'm going to do. So we don't act always from either just the reasonable or the emotional mind. So what is mindfulness? John Kabat-Zinn is one of the experts in mindfulness, and his books, which I'll reference at the end, are absolutely fantastic. But he talks about mindfulness being the awareness that emerges through paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally, to the unfolding of your experience moment by moment. So whatever your attention is on, that's what life is for you at that moment. And in DBT, we talk about the house skills. So basically, like I said earlier, it's just about trying to be non-judgmental. Watch out for when your mind gives you the shoulda, woulda, coulda, the must, it's good, it's bad. Those are kind of evaluative critical thought. So sometimes we just need to just go straight to the fact. So right now, this is how things are. This is what I can see in front of me. This is what I can hear, or this is what I can see. Just try to go back to the fact, and that can be extremely helpful to calm us down, or just to be with whatever is happening in that present moment, and to accept every moment as it comes. And it's just to sort of say acceptance doesn't mean liking it. It might just be that we just need to make room and expand to whatever's happening. The other thing we need to do is trying to do one thing at a time. So that could be what you're eating, it could be what you're drinking, it could be what you can see, it could just be that in a conversation, we can often be caught up with conversation so much that we can't always focus on what the person's saying because our mind is dragging us back into the past or into the future. But coming back to what's going on, one thing at a time, whatever's happening right here, right now. And then we need to do it effectively. So I'm going to talk a little bit about all the different ways you can practice mindfulness. We want you to focus on what works for you. So try and just sort of let go of any sort of, not too sure if mindfulness is working for me, I don't know if I'm doing it right. Mindfully notice those thoughts and come back to just having a go, practicing it. So what skills are, what do we do? So we need to observe the experience without getting too caught up in it. So a Teflon mind is basically thinking about the non-stick frying pans. Imagine your thought coming in to your mind and then just imagine them going out of your mind. So it's a little bit like trying not to sort of have a spider web in your mind where you should go over and over the same thoughts and then you get nowhere. So mindfulness is a way of trying to take a step back, get some distance from the problem, so that you can either come to a solution or you need to sort of think, actually, this is just as it is and it's not going to last and it will change. And a really good way to do that is to describe things. You can put a name on your experience. So you could say, right now, I am feeling stressed, or I'm feeling anxious, or I feel quite low actually. Or it could be that you feel joy. And we can do a lot of mindfulness for joy, really positive emotions where, you know what, I'm really loving this. But should be mindful when a thought comes in your head where you might think, oh, I'm worried about this positive experience ending. Let that thought come and go and then go back to really enjoying whatever's happening. And then lastly, we need to participate, to become one with the experience. It is what it is right here, right now. Try to let go of when your mind starts to ruminate or go over things. You can't stop the wave, but you can learn how to surf. So instead of trying to crash against your experience and stop it and be overwhelmed and realize that your emotions are very powerful sometimes, what we need to do is learn how to surf them, because they do come and they do go, just like waves. So why bother? Well, what we know is that mindfulness in psychology, especially in the Western world, in the last decade has been one of the most heavily researched things across the world. And there are loads and loads of studies showing all of these benefits that you can see on the screen here. So yeah, it does help us to slow down and recognize our impulsive responses, but it helps us to respond to difficult situations, to become more creative. Some people do better at exams when they practice mindfulness during the study. It helps to lower stress, helps us to focus our engagements on reading, listening to music, helps you to respond to pain better, make the brain more resilient. It helps our immune system improve because we know that stress is related to that. We know that it lowers your depression, it lowers anxiety, or it helps people to change their relationship to anxiety and depression. It helps people to sleep better. And of course, for people who are very mindful of what they're eating, they start to notice that they can make wise mind decisions about how much, the quantity, or what it is that they're eating, and they find benefits in that way. More interestingly, we know that the brain does actually respond to mindfulness. So perhaps, 50 years ago, we would have thought that emotions and things that are happening in our childhood or early years or from trauma in our adulthood years, maybe that can be locked in the brain. Does the brain really change? But in the last 50 years, we've got so far with brain scans, we can see that the brain does change over time. It does evolve. And this is what we call neuroplasticity. So, for example, there are some studies showing that only having 8 weeks of a mindfulness practice in a group form, it can really do beneficial changes to the brain. So a really good way to do this, starting from today or this week, is to, the next time you're walking somewhere, just think about a walk that you might be doing that you've done a million times before. This time, can you stop? Can you notice when you're just in your mind? And can you become a lot more present with the external world? So it's getting out of your mind and into your life. Can you look around and see everything that's happening to you? Can you listen to the sound that's going on, whether it's the car, whether it's the weather, whether it's the noise of someone else's shoes or someone's phone ringing or the birds? Just trying to be present right here, right now. This moment isn't going to come again. Another example of how we can do everyday mindfulness is that we can think about tasks that we do every single day, such as brushing our teeth, shampooing our hair, ironing. And one that I quite like to do is mindfulness of washing up, because it's something I have to do that I don't want to do. But because it's going to happen anyway, I might as well become one with the experience. So you can think about the temperature of the water, how the soapy water might feel on your skin, any sounds you might hear, the sounds of the water if we take dishes in and out of it. Just thinking about the texture of the sponge or the smoothness of the plate. So basically we're having the same relationship, a different relationship with something that we've done again and again every day. And lastly, I should want to say that sometimes we don't always feel able to do mindfulness when we're in distress. And so we sometimes do have to distract. That's absolutely fine, that's okay. But sometimes we might need to watch TV or ring someone or just listen to music, go for a walk. That's absolutely fine. But what we find in psychology is that a lot of people are good at distracting themselves. What's more difficult is trying to go towards emotions or sensations or your experience right here, right now. But we do know that people who do this, it does take practice, but it does really help. Not only our anxiety, depression, our overwhelming sense of being, but also it really does help with the brain as well. So, of course, why wouldn't we want to try to do more mindfulness practice, and why wouldn't we want to be more present? I hope that's been a helpful introduction. It's a very short introduction, but if you look at our YouTube channel, you'll see there's 3 other mindfulness videos and more to come. A 3-minute breathing space is a really good place to start, because this is a more formal mindfulness exercise. And you can do 3 minutes every single day. So it doesn't take a lot from you, but you can also do everyday mindfulness, like the washing up and the walking, like I said, or the eating, or mindful smoking, mindful having a cup of tea, whatever it is that you want to do. It's not too important what the practice is. It's really about trying to sort of exercise that part in the brain, that muscle in the brain of attention, of coming back to the present moment, right here, right now, non-judgmentally. I hope that's been helpful, but do look at our other videos and give it a go. Good luck.